Hey gang, so a little bit of an understated Sprintwatch today. We got some news, but unfortunately not much news on the roadmap. So if that sounds good, let's get this. Okay, so you might notice that I have Spectrum up rather than the usual roadmap roundup thing, and you can notice that this does say roadmap roundup. This is Jake Acapella who does the roadmap roundup and pulls together the progress tracker and the release view. He's kind of the one that's in charge of it. So this is an authoritative person that's actually talking about this. This isn't just some random dev at CIG. This is the person that actually handles the roadmap. You can notice all the Picard drama and clown faces and poop emojis and sleep emojis and hand face, or yeah, those emojis. Spectrum is a silly place. Let's go ahead and get into this. I won't bog you guys down with a lot of stuff, but I will go ahead and read what Jake said and also a couple little comments he had in there. So happy Wednesday, everybody. Every 2 weeks, we accompany the roadmap roundup with a brief explanatory note to give you insight into the decision-making that led to any changes. This is part of an effort to make our communication more transparent, more specific, and more insightful for all of you who help make Star Citizen and Squadron 42 possible. While we don't have a release view update today, which, as a reminder, means things are progressing as planned displayed on the roadmap, we do want to address the lack of updates to the progress tracker, which I mentioned 2 weeks ago when I was kind of like, they flat out took out the verbiage at the bottom referring to the progress tracker. And my thought was they're probably going to be dumping the progress tracker, but they say we're eager to update this view so you can see the extensive tasks our team is working on. Let's go ahead and pop over and look at this. So the release view, things that are going through 3.24, obviously kind of kicking through Evocati. As an Evocati member myself, I can tell you that the builds are rough. The cargo loading and all of that is works on and off. The whole using the drawer to access your inventory kind of works, but not everything pops up on the display, so you can't really see what you're loading. So if you don't remember that this armor has this specific name, you might not be able to find it in the list of all the armors that are there. So it's got some issues. I don't think you can load up vehicles yet, if I remember right from the last one. I haven't had cargo load. Other people have. One of the issues I was having was I was at Lorville and I was just testing, so I bought a bunch of scrap, which a little bit of a worrying thing is the only two commodities available for purchase at Lorville was still waste and scrap. So my hope is that they just haven't implemented the new economy balance. I think it might have even said that in the patch notes. So again, not too worried, but if we start getting deeper into July and it's still just doing waste and scrap, my interest in running cargo will probably pretty low. I'll do a couple of the cargo missions just to kind of see what they're all about, especially if the whole sea is working, which it effectively has not been working since it dropped. Just a lot of problems with the docking arm and that whole mechanic. The whole loop is not particularly good, and I've talked about that plenty in the past. But anyway, as far as the release view goes, everything's still the same. Nothing's changed. That's what Jake's saying. So let's keep going. With the big push to release 4.0 and Squadron 42 reaching its feature complete milestone, pretty big, our resources have had to shift around as new needs arise and increased frequency than in the past. Basically what Jake's saying here is we're trying to get Squadron 42 out the door. We've got bigger priorities than this progress tracker, especially when we're giving you monthly reports and the release view and all that sort of stuff. This is a lower priority. That said, I don't I think Jake is in the community team, so his whole job is to communicate with the community. Could be wrong about that, though. I'm sure he has other stuff on his plate. Anyway, this created a significant challenge in maintaining the progress tracker. The team is working to push Squadron 42 toward the finish line while balancing this with ensuring Star Citizen receives new features, content, and updates. At this stage of development, especially with such a big focus on Squadron 42 polish, I don't know why I said that so weird. Developers or even entire teams may need to shift focus quickly when necessary work presents itself. This dynamic approach is different from our usual internal flow and has required a bit more flexibility and nimble nature. And so what they're doing is they're like pulling people from one team that have certain expertise, putting them on another team and saying, okay, you and you work together, get this thing working. And then they blow that up after a couple weeks after they finish their sprint and go on to the other thing. Makes it really hard to track things in the progress tracker style of things, which is basically based on teams. This team is working on this feature for this long. That's not what they're doing right now, which makes it probably very hard to track in the progress tracker. I think that's what Jake's saying here. Despite this, our production team has a plan to update the progress tracker very soon. Honestly, Jake, given that you are almost certainly watching this little, 1,000-member channel, he's not watching this. But my suggestion to him would be just push it off till next year. It's not a priority. We're getting enough information. You're going to have the people on Spectrum whining, but people on Spectrum always whine. That's what they're good at. So just do your thing, focus on Squadron 42. When people have Squadron 42 and 4.0 in their hands, they're not going to be thinking about the progress tracker in the immediate future. So I would say just push the progress tracker off till next year. And this is from the guy who on Reddit had the original tracker. So yeah, just will live. They are currently working on populating the roadmap to better represent our global workload, starting with content being worked on through the end of 2024 and then soon after into 2025, which makes sense since the year 2025 follows the year 2024. See, I'm just full of useful and new information. Once the update to Progress Tracker is ready, we'll mention it ahead of time in This Week in Star Citizen schedule post preceding the publish. We sincerely appreciate your patience and understanding, which is a great way to say you have not been patient or understanding with this. It's an exciting time for both games, and we look forward to sharing more details with you soon. So let's go ahead and look at the later comments by Jake. Oh, for those of you who don't know, this is the dev tracker. It's under development. It's the second one in. You can see things that devs at CIG are commenting on Spectrum, which could be kind of useful if you're ever wondering where Board Gamer and Salty Mike and those guys kind of get some of their inside information when they're not actually getting it from directly from a CIG employee who's a member of their community. This is a pretty safe bet. But let's go ahead and look at the next one. So down the comments here, I'm not even going to try to say that name. Squadron 42 reaching its feature complete milestone. And Svalbard Sleeper District said, I thought that was reached 8 months ago, or is it just worded awkwardly and means something is like Squadron 42 being in the post-feature complete state? And then Jake comes back and says, it was. Apologies for the wording confusion. It's not really all that confusing. Due to reaching that milestone, many of the resources and teams are reallocated, both to strike teams to begin polish work on Squadron 42, as well as resources moving back over to Star Citizen. This caused challenges maintaining progress trackers. These resources have been especially fluid and reactive since that point, which he said. And then down here he had another comment from Rukaribi. Said, would it make sense to archive the previous progress tracker and start fresh with the new teams and new tasks? Actually, a pretty good question. This is something being discussed currently! Exclamation point. Happy to hear y'all's thoughts on keeping the old data set versus not. Yeah, just as a guy that was tracking this, back when this was just the slides that rolled out at SitCon, and all we had was that 3.0 would be the salvage patch, 4.0 would be the exploration patch, that kind of thing, and it would come with these ships. And of course it was things like the Endeavor, Hope, and things like that, which we obviously aren't getting with 4.0. But I had said, why don't you lay down all of the known things you're working on, or all of the things that you know about that you'd have to do to complete the game, and then you just kind of have, we're working on it this much, these are things that we're working on, and then as things kind of get closer to what you perceive as a locked in state and stuff, you could change it, and then people would be able to derive from that, this is what's coming in the next patch because it's mostly finished. Which was kind of the way they went, and it was less effective than I thought it would be. But hey, learn something new every day. I think that was all the Jake comments, which is not too surprising. So yeah, just as far as that goes, it's not super surprising. There's nothing there that I didn't expect. The fact that they're just kind of on target right now isn't shocking at all. We are going to start entering the information drought as they move towards SitCon and IAE in October, November, respectively. They tend to shut down all the information we're getting, and inside Star Citizen Live start to become like fluff, like we might see a bunch of Pyro Station over and over and over and over and over again because they're going to show something off at SitCon that's completely unrelated and they don't want to give it away for their big show. So yeah, we'll see. If it's starting in July, that's a little earlier than normal. Usually that drought starts around August. That said, it could be a good sign that's starting up relatively soon, because that probably means that they've got big announcements planned for this SitCon, which I said at last year's SitCon. I'm still going to stick by that if they're going to be releasing Squadron 42 during the holiday season this year, they need to start rolling out the trailers and kind of demo play real soon, like within the next, I'd say 3 to 6 weeks. If you don't see it by then they're probably just going to have an announcement of the release date at SitCon of releasing June of 2025, Squadron 42, which you can use that, CIG. I'll let you use my voice for that. It's going to be one of the two. And of course, we're going to be should be getting 4.0, which will come with jump gates and pyro, which, having bounced around in pyro looks pretty good and pretty finished. At least as good as Stanton does. It's just the matter of connecting them and having the server meshing working. That's going to be tricky. And we should be seeing that. I know I said mid-July. I actually wouldn't be shocked if we got 324 at the end of next week, or at least a wider PTU. I think it's going to need more time in the oven. Once it goes to wider PTU, you'll see what I mean. if it's not cleaned up by then. Sometimes there's like a later patch in Evocati that all of a sudden things just click and the patch is perfect and you're like, release this build, this is good, and it goes without a hitch. We haven't had one of those for a while. Hopefully introducing server meshing will be the change in that. And gang, that's all I got for this one. One thing I want to throw on there for those of you who hung around this long, just with us going into an information drought and Jake flat out saying we're probably not going to be having a progress tracker for a little while, if you'd rather have me look into the monthly reports, let me know, because I can certainly read through those and pull out the little bits. I mean, I do read through them anyway, but I can certainly pull out the little bits that I find interesting that maybe not everybody else is talking about. And I got a couple plans for a couple other shows to kind of fill in the gaps while we're waiting for more information to come in. Gang, that's all I got for this one. So thanks for sticking it out and catch you next time.